name is Pastor Phil. I'm the host of Third Rail Ministries. Today we're going to take a quick look at another prophecy that has to do with the Christ child, and it has to do with that the Christ child is not some random event, that his birth has great significance, and how that truth, that recognition applies to our daily walk. We're going to start reading in the 22nd chapter of Luke, verses 19 to 20, and when we get into this, it's going to sound a little backwards, but I'm going to explain why we're approaching it this way. Jesus is sitting at the table, sharing what we have come to describe in later-day Christianity as the Last Supper. And Jesus says these words, "And he took the bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to them, saying, 'This is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me.' In the same way, after the supper, he took the cup, saying, 'This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you.'" Now, without belaboring the whole thing, since we're just on a quick little meditation here, the bread is significant because it's something that food is important. There's never a lot of it. There's never enough of it. It's always one of our core worries. And back then, in the Jewish culture, when you you invited somebody in and you broke bread with them and you gave them to them, that was a big deal. Didn't just happen to everybody. It happened to family, close friends, and people of importance that you invited in. So Jesus sits at the beginning of the table and he breaks the bread. He gives thanks to God for it, and he hands it to them, saying, "This is my body broken for you. Like this bread is broken so that you may eat, my body will be broken so that you will be sustained. And every time you do this in remembrance of me." And then he transitions to, in the same way after the supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you." And it's very easy to skip past those new covenant and not really spend the time that you need to thinking about the importance of that is. But just quickly, God is a God of covenants. He's a covenantal God. He's a God always in relationship with his creation. He made covenants with Abraham, Isaac, David, agreements that have gone through there. The broadest and the biggest, "I shall be your God, you should be my people." But all the way through the whole thing, now Jesus steps in and he says, "This is a new covenant." Now, to any Jewish mind listening, that would have rung the bell of this is huge. But Jesus is going to offer the new covenant, which is forgiveness and redemption from sins through the gift of a sacrifice of Jesus Christ, redemption through grace. Now, all of that is not unknown to you if you're a Christian, and if you aren't, it can be explained. Write a comment down, and I'll talk to you forever on it. But in this imagery, this very snapshot, 2 verses, we see the offering of bread, sustenance, and it carries not only the sharing of that which sustains life, but is also seen as the ultimate welcoming action. The blood is noted as the carrier of life in Jewish culture, so much so that they have specific rules on how animals were slaughtered and everything else like that. And it's always noted and associated with sacrifice. So Jesus is saying, "I'm here to sustain you. I'm here to offer the new covenant, and life comes through my sacrifice." So it's just incredible enough to ponder the meaning of Jesus' words, especially when they're couched in covenantal language that would have significant meaning to the Jewish listener. But that's not what we're here for today. We're here to take a look at this significant language, this promise of the new covenant, and we're here to recognize that not only is this awesome to have this covenantal change foretold, or have it, but it was foretold 650 years before it would happen. It's not only mind-blowing, it is very instructive. And so we're going to turn to Jeremiah 31, the 31st chapter of Jeremiah, and we're going to start with verse 31. "The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and with the people of Judah." 650 years. The days are coming, when I will make a new covenant. "It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, before they broke my covenant, even though I was like a husband to them. This is the covenant I will make with the people of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I'll put my law in their hearts and their minds. I will be their God, and they will be my people." Incredible words. So we sit down, and sometimes I remember when I first discovered and really thought on that covenantal language that Jesus shared at the Last Supper, I thought, wow, here he is saying right here, only God can know this stuff. But then you see God's hand in the mouth of Jeremiah 650 years earlier. Now, what has this got to do with Advent? Well, the question of the Christ child and the authenticity of the Christ child and the power of the Christ child, and why is this so significant in a world which seems to mock everything Christian? It's just very simply this. Jesus Christ, as an infant, born in a cave or a stable in a backwater little town like Bethlehem, honored 2 years later by the wise men, being chased all over the country, was not just an accidental event. It was foretold by the angels. It was foretold by Jeremiah. It was foretold by Isaiah. It is a planned event that occurs. In the fullness of time, Jesus came. Some of you may wonder why he came to that people. Well, that's where God's people were. The gospel came first to the people of God, the chosen people, and then to the Gentiles. The gospel movement came at a planned time. God's salvation plan to redeem and restore his creation began when we sinned at the beginning. In this Advent time, it's so easy to get all wrapped up in the cuteness of a baby. And as I mentioned before, we have a new one in our family. I have a new granddaughter, and she's amazing. And it's so easy to get caught up in the cuteness of these little babies and the little life. But I am continually mystified at the miracle of life, and then to know that no life occurs accidentally or without some purpose. For the people of God, he works all things together for the good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Here we have the Christ child arriving in the fullness of time to a virgin girl who would love that boy, raise him only to see him die on the cross for her sins and for the sins of everyone who'd been, was, and would to come for those who would call upon his name. The importance of the story of the Last Supper and the importance of the covenant and the importance of why Advent is so important to that story is because the baby had to first come in order for all those sentences to be true. The miracle of the Christ child, fully God, fully man, arriving in just like we do, as helpless little babies, to be held and loved and nursed by a mother, all because God loved us. All because he wanted us to have an avenue for redemption because of our sinful nature. The prophecy of the new covenant is profound because it indicates that God has a plan for a new relationship with his people, and that plan came to fullness and to culmination in the personage of the Christ child. This is a time that we're making this video that we've mentioned many before. It's a difficult time. It's during pandemic time, so I don't know when you'll see this now or later. But this is it. It's at the end of the year. We've been at this pandemic 8-9 months. There's hope on the horizon, but there's still a lot of confusion. There's still some people getting sick. There's still some people paying the ultimate price. It's difficult sometimes to have hope in an environment that constantly seems to be grinding the slow wheel of confusion and making you take a second look at everything. The hope of the Christ child is that the Christ child's advent, his coming, begins the actual process that will result 33 years later in a man, the Son of God, Son of Man, dying on a cross so that my sin and your sin could be provided for. It is a time of hope. It is a time of love. It is a time of joy. It is a time of peace. It's a time of solid remembrance so that every time we sit down, break bread, drink juice, every time we remember the Christ of the cross, we remember the innocence of the Christ child. God bless. Have a great day. See you later.